start the recording now. Um, Alright, so for today's class, we're going to be reviewing single sword and also sword and board. Um, Today's class I expect will probably be a little bit shorter than the last class. Because the last class is a lot of the front loading information of how do you even reeve in the first place. In this class, we're going to do a little bit of reviewing right here at the beginning of some of the things we covered in the last class. And then we're going to go right into looking at some videos of single sword, and after we get watch a couple videos there, we'll head into sword and board. So, to review some of the stuff from last week, let's go ahead and cover just our legal hit locations once again, since we're gonna have to be keeping a good eye out for that today, because we're gonna be wanting to watch these videos in the perspective of a Reeve versus just the perspective of a fighter. So you're going to want to keep in mind watching for the hit locations of the left and right arm, the left and right leg, and the torso. And keeping in mind that headshots, of course, are not legal. Same thing with foot on ground. And a hand that is holding a weapon, up until the point where the wrist starts. The hand itself would also not be a legal hit location. And then the other most important thing we're going to be looking at is going to be the actual process of inflicting wounds and legal hits. So keeping in mind that a wound, such as a slash, must be percussive and stop on or deflect off the victim. And then stabs, which must strike with the tip and stop on or deflect off the victim. And keeping an eye out for invalid shots like grazes, which are not percussive and do not stop or deflect. Draw cuts, which are stabs which fail to strike with the tip. And pushes, which are contacts pushed into or slid against the victim after the initial motion was completely blocked. And after the initial motion had stopped. And for the rules of play for this, I'm still going off of Sappy in the Sappy rules of play, because those are the ones we are using currently as a kingdom. So we're going to go ahead and jump straight into watching some videos, which I do want to figure out if anyone knows who recorded these Merc Bottom videos, because they actually recorded the entire, pretty much all of the Iron Man that happened at the mid-rain at Merc Bottom, which is pretty nice, because there's some good content here. So we're actually going to go ahead and start with some single sword from here first. And before we start watching the videos, there's a couple things that are important to keep in mind as you're watching a single sword fight. So, what does it say? Oh, recorded by Anya. Sweet. Okay, cool.
Hey, Leo, I'm pretty sure the recorder was Lilica.
It says Anya in the caption, but of the video. But
Oh,
if anything, I'll message to verify. Yeah, so some things to keep in mind when you're watching videos with single sword. There's a lot of just common practices you'll see more frequently in single sword that you might not necessarily see as often in other weapon sets. For example, hand blocking. Hand blocking is a very common thing in single sword, where a fighter will block an incoming shot that's going to hit their torso by sacrificing their arm and putting it in the way of the shot, and then throwing their own afterwards with the other arm that has their sword in it. So that'll be something to keep in mind and look out for, because it is the quote-unquote peasant's shield. So if you have not reeved single sword before, you're going to be seeing that a lot, because it comes up pretty much every other fight, if not every fight. And other things to keep in mind, single sword often results in a lot of simuls or simultaneous kills, where the two fighters, both of their shots are in time. They both hit the kill shot at the same time, in time with each other, which results in both players being dead. Which there is a section on that for where I don't remember what exact line it's on, but where as long as it is within basically like a second, I believe, of contact between like deaths, then both shots counts as in time as long as the it is like one continuous swing. Like it wouldn't be I got hit, I swung my shot immediately after I got hit. Mine is late if I'm trying to swing on my opponent. Just because I hit them, I was dead by the time I even started my shot. So mine would not be in motion or in time to kill my opponent because I was already dead. So for single sword, we're gonna go ahead and start with just watching like a fight, and then after this first fight, we can unmute to talk about some things that we notice people doing and how, from your perspective, where shots seem to land. One good thing is that this is at a pretty good angle to spectate as a Reeve, because standing like perpendicular or at least slightly like offset, you don't want to be staring at one person's back the whole time. Because ideally you will have at least 2 Reeves per ring anyways. So realistically, you should each be watching a side at minimum. So that way you're trying to get as much coverage as possible, and you don't have to watch everything yourself all at once. So we'll go ahead and watch this first fight.
Iron Man single sword begins in 3, 2, 1, touch and go!
So, that was a pretty quick one, but did anyone notice anything there? Because obviously they didn't explicitly call out any shots. So, were there any shots?
You weren't streaming anything yet, Leo.
I'm not streaming! Oh my god!
Yeah, I was about to say there was a video.
Ah! Okay. I'm streaming now.
Those hits went so fast.
Literally couldn't even see them. Blink of an eye, and it was over. I was just like, okay, we're good now. All right. So yeah, we'll go ahead and watch this first fight. That is Perrin and Gideon.
Oh, Gideon. I'm sorry, Gideon versus Perrin. Okay, interesting fight.
1, touch and go!
All right.
23.
So we'll notice afterwards that the result of this was Gideon staying in the ring. So what shots did you notice landing during this fight from this perspective here?
I was gonna ask you, can you play it one more time?
I'll play it one more time.
So fast.
But just try to look for,
My eyes are
as an
focused this
exercise, each person will pick like a person. So let's say you decide whether you're going to watch Gideon swinging or watching Perrin swinging. So go ahead
I'm
and pick
gonna
a person.
watch.
You don't have
Perrin's
to. You don't have to
POV.
say it out loud, but
Oh.
each person will pick everyone will pick either watching Gideon or watching Perrin swing, and then after the fight, I'll call on a person to go ahead and unmute and talk about which shots they saw from their respective person. All right.
23.
All right. Let's see. All right. So, if anyone wants to go ahead and unmute and start to discuss what they saw in this one.
I am happy to. So Gideon caught Perrin in his right leg. As Perrin went down, Gideon caught him again, and I didn't see exactly where that landed, but I assume probably in the chest or arm.
All right, sweet. And does anyone want to make now an observation about where Perrin's shots landed if you were watching Perrin in the fight?
So it looked like he hit Gideon in, I want to say, and I'm looking at this from based off of the camera perspective on Gideon's right arm at the top. However, I don't know if the second, well, I mean, obviously, because if Gideon is still alive, I don't think the second shot that Perrin threw was quite in time enough for it to count.
All right, yeah, so let's go ahead and combine those two comments there. Watch the fight again one more time.
Touch and go.
So yeah, it looks like the results there, pretty much everything that you guys pointed out. So in this fight, you see the tap there on the leg. He drops. There's some sort of connection over here, but Gideon also gets connection on his side as well. Realistically, the only
Leo, why don't you slow it down to 50% speed?
OMG, you're so right. I forget YouTube can do that. Oh, also, hello. Okay. Using the tools that YouTube gives you for free. Anyways.
Did that not catch him on the back as he was going down? Did that not hit him straight across the back?
Yeah, that was one comment that I was thinking about pointing out there. Is it looks more like Perrin's shot, at least his first shot of contact there from this perspective.
Touch and go.
Is we see the contact on the leg. After that, Perrin drops, contact on right arm and potentially back from this angle.
Well, I'm seeing. Hold on.
And it looks like as Perrin's going down, there is probably a second contact from Gideon's sword. But
It looks
Yeah.
like he gets hit on the leg again that he got hit with originally. Does that not count because he's dropping that be the dead leg, or no?
that is
It-
correct.
Yeah.
So the wounded leg is capable of receiving additional wound, except for when the knee is on the ground or during the initial placement of the knee on the ground after receiving an additional wound. After receiving a wound. So realistically, the outcome of this probably would have worked out a little different in this initial fight.
I will also, if I can interject, if the fighter themselves calls dead, you just got to play it as dead, right?
Yeah.
Like for some instances where it's too fast to notice, right? Usually they're going to be good about their own shot taking it. Maybe Perrin just didn't know about the second tap to the leg rule, which that could be something we could talk to him individually and be like, hey, technically you didn't have to go down here. So
And another important thing to note is, of course, we're watching this video and we've watched it over 4 times and in 50% speed now, like twice. And the initial like shot that was arm and potentially back, kind of a lot of us only noticed on the like one of the additional watches and on a slightly slower speed. Because in real time, this fight's gonna play out like this.
2, 1, touch and go.
And when you're in an Iron Man, if both of the fighters are kind of agreeing on what's happening, but you might notice sometimes, not saying this about Gideon specifically, but just in general, in Iron Mans and generally in tournaments, if you start noticing that there are times that players are frequently either sloughing shots or maybe getting confused on their shot recognition, that's when you would have have a comment made with the rest of your Reeve team, like, hey, keep an eye out for XYZ player. Or XYZ player is, like, struggling with, like, recognizing shots on the leg. Because sometimes that is, like, an issue people have where they are not as good at distinguishing, like, maybe shoulder from arm or hip from leg. So this would be a time where initially at the beginning you might not be fully actively reeving as in, I saw this shot land, you're dead. But he might prompt with a question of, with using our different reeve styles, like, hey, did that connect with this spot here? Give them the opportunity to be honorable, stuff like that, if that's something that you're noticing. So let's see. Going into
So hey, I did notice from watching the footage one more time and stopping it in certain angles, at about 10 seconds in, when Perrin does that second shot, I managed to stop it at a particular frame. It looks like Perrin, about right there, like almost at that exact dead frame. It looks like right at the 10-second moniker. It looks like Perrin at the end hit Gideon's sword, and it kind of like he kind of it looked like Gideon kind of parried it, like a sword to sword collision.
Okay.
Okay.
I will say also just a quick thing to interject with, alongside understanding that most people will take their let them be honorable. One thing
Yeah.
that sometimes tends to happen is that some players tend to be a little bit too light on their calls. I know I fucking do it a lot. Where like they'll call it what is an arm shot as shoulder or fucking back. So, let them be honorable, but at the same time maybe pull them aside and say, hey, that may not have been exactly that. Keep them to help them out. Especially it helps out for newer players and 5 and unders and stuff like that. Because otherwise it makes bad habits for later on.
All right, so let's go ahead and start looking at this next one, which we'll do the same thing. We'll watch it in normal speed, and then we'll go right into... We'll watch it in normal speed, and then we'll each pick a person to watch. I'll slow it down. We'll watch it in normal speed, but we'll go ahead and look at it first. Which also keep in mind, of course, like, having a camera is great, but when you are reeving live fighting, you're not going to have the opportunity to rewind and watch things again. And also, you're going to be having to make decisions quickly. So these are scenarios where the mentality of, all right, if the fighters can't work out a consensus for what happened in their fight within like 10 seconds, all right, both of you out of the ring, 2 new people in to keep the fight going so people can get their fights in. Because reeving a ring also somewhat takes part of keeping the flow of the ring going. So, these will just be things to keep in mind. But let's go ahead and watch this next one.
26. 26. 19.
And then we'll go back and watch it in slower speed, TM.
26. 26. 19. 26. 26. 19.
Why am I hearing this fight multiple times? Oh, because I had Toast stream up, but that's why. I was like, why am I hearing this so much? Okay. Alright, so what are some things that we noticed from this second fight here?
Gideon seems to have landed a left arm shot and a right arm shot.
And then I guess the one thing I would point out is, unfortunately, from this angle, it's a little bit more difficult to see this gentleman here's where specifically his shots would have landed on Gideon, just because of the angle itself. Because a lot of the fight happens with...
26.
Once they rotate here, it is more difficult to see.
26.
So that would just be something to note there. Like, oh, okay, if you're watching for angles as a reeve, you're going to want to be rotating a bit more so you can see. I believe the other reeve is somewhere over in this general vicinity. I do not remember who else is reeving with me in this one. But in this type of scenario, what are some things that you guys are noticing to look out for a little bit more in single sword when you're watching for shots landing? Chirp, chirp, chirp. Alright, let's see. Let's see if I can go to a fight.
I would say specifically looking at this, I don't know who Gideon's opponent is in this, but it most certainly looks like um, Gideon had multiple shots on him that he wasn't taking, potentially in the leg. But again, because of the angle, it didn't really give a clear view as to exactly whether or not those things landed. Um, it does, I mean, like, it looks like it should have been over well before it was.
Yeah. And let's see, if we watch this fight again and we listen to it at normal speed, one thing we can keep an ear out for is for contact, because if we're not seeing the contact happen at our angle, what we can do is listen for the contact happening, which is a little bit easier in the moment versus in video. That's one thing that's easier in the moment versus on video, only because I know the audio here will also be picking up on this fight happening in the background and other people. It's a little bit easier to focus on directionally where you're hearing things from in person. But let's go ahead and listen to this fight now, too.
26. 26. 19.
So from listening to it, it sounds like there are connections. Whether or not specifically they're...
26. 26.
Whether or not that shot specifically sounds like body versus sword is a little hard to tell over video. But there's obviously... the other fighter is taking a swing. It is landing somewhere in this vicinity, whether it's hitting sword and glove or leg. So these are important things that you would be looking out for while you're reeving single sword, because not only you're going to want to keep yourself at a good angle to watch as many of the shots like where they're landing as possible, but you're also going to be wanting to listen for how the shots are landing and what they sound like. Because if someone hits their opponent with a stab, obviously it's not going to make the pop, but you're going to have to look for it. Versus if you're hearing a shot connect and it sounds like it hits body versus like the kind of more hollow sound you're going to get from it hitting a sword, then that is a very helpful indicator for whether or not a shot's actually landing. But let's go ahead and jump to this fight, which is going to have Worm and Cookie. So we'll go ahead and watch this one in real time first, and then do the same thing as before. Alright, so the outcome of that fight was a Simo. Let's go back and watch it in half-time speed. Alright. Do you want to watch it again, or do we have some observations from that first one?
I have some observations, but I can't 100% assess them, which is you can definitely hear Cookie making some really audible pops in his shots.
To me, it just looks like Cookie got in a chest or some sort of, trunk shot, and then it also looked like Worm got a hip shot on Cookie, so.
Yeah, and that's
I need to
pretty
see it
much
on
exactly correct. There, we'll go ahead and rewatch it too, so you could see it again. But that's pretty much it. They both hit each other in torso. They both called Simo. So let's go ahead and watch it again there. And then one time again at normal speed. Yeah.
Okay, I have some observations for both participants.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked like, I believe that's Worm, yes?
Yeah, that's Worm and Sir
Cookie, yeah. Okay, so I believe while Cookie was kind of starting to come in, he was kind of waiting for Worm to throw his shot to kind of parry his sword and bring him down, and it looked like I can kind of see where the simul happened, because it looks like when you see Worm throw his shot, where Cookie goes in for the stab on Worm's chest, it looked like Worm slid the shot, but just high enough over Cookie's shoulder on the right side, where it goes above the sleeve, which I think would be considered a torso hit. Like just right on where the seam is on Cookie's shoulder.
It connects, from my view, it connects a little closer to his hip, because if you look here, if you're watching the tip of his sword a little more, gives you a little better of a visual as to where his shot lands.
Okay, there's Worm moving in, and then he blocks it, and then there's the shot, and then there's the stab of the.
Yeah.
He doesn't hit the shoulder.
Yeah.
Whenever you're looking at that, he hits the hip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're
yeah.
the connection's closer towards like the tip of his sword as it's going down. And right there is a nice, good, clean fight where both fighters both took their shots honorably, both called Simo, and both just left the ring. It was a very just nice and clean fight there, which you love to see it. They're the easiest thing to reeve because they're both honorable, which is really nice. But some things that are really helpful with single are paying a lot of attention towards where the tip is going of the sword, because that is where a lot of the contact is going to be happening. And realistically, when you're watching a single sword fight, where the tip is, as long as you know where the fighter's hand is and where the tip of the sword is, you know where everything else is. And also keeping an eye on the tip of the sword helps with looking out for stabs, of course. Like if I'm watching Cookie's stab as he goes in on Worm there, it's a lot easier to see it when you're paying attention to the tip of their swords. So yeah. Bonk. Alright. And let's see. Who comes up next?
Two in! Let's go! Right side!
Alright. Yeah. And then one other thing to keep in mind as you're reeving / running a tournament is, of course, sometimes a fighter will not know what rig to go to, which happens all the time because things are moving fast. So, calling over people to your ring, just waving them over me, alright, the next fight is over here, is helpful to keep the flow of the tournament going, of course. So let's go ahead and watch this next one here. Okay, that one was quite quick. Slow it down also. Boop. Okay.
Right side!
Alright. So if anyone has observations on that one. I know that one's a little bit more straightforward there, but...
Like 2 arms or arm and a shoulder.
Yeah, pretty much if you're just watching, it's twice there. And that's pretty much it. That one's pretty straightforward. She doesn't throw any shots there. and then this next one here. And then we'll go back and slow it down also. Bonk. So you'll notice this is the first instance of, or at least one of the first instances of what I mentioned earlier with hand blocking, where the fighter will toss their hand in front of an oncoming shot to block it. So we'll go ahead and watch that fight one more time, and then we'll make our comments and observations. All right. Does anyone have any immediate comments to make there about that one?
Yes, I do. So immediately watching this fight, I'm noticing that from a video perspective, it's difficult to kind of, well, I mean, difficult. It would be difficult under normal circumstances because the fact that the two fighters are kind of at an angle through the whole entire fight.
Mm-hmm.
The hit looked painful on his arm.
Yeah,
Like, I
the one
mean,
that
he
landed on
looked
Fert.
like he's in exceedingly bad discomfort. Like, if you watch it, his facial reaction is not happy. Like, that is absolute panic on his face.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my god, I can't see shit. I have to like bring it up on my own screen and then full screen it in order to see these fights. For
Let me
me,
slow
at
it down
least,
real
because
quick.
I'm blind and old.
oh yeah, I'm on my phone. And I can zoom in on Discord.
I'm so jealous.
But yeah. For that one, I didn't even notice the shift on his face at first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, sheesh. But yeah, so far, a good amount of the fights, aside from like the first two, are like are relatively easy to see. The only thing to keep in mind, of course, is as you're watching them in person, it will sometimes be a little hard, especially once you get to when you start seeing like sometimes two higher tier fighters in the ring, which I want to see if there's a really good example of, but I don't know if there's one in this specific video. But the good thing is, like, are we noticing the good stuff to look out for with watching for where shots land, listening to how shots land, etc., and feeling more comfy with that?
I think so.
Yeah, I feel like the one with Cookie and Worm was a pretty good example because I mean they're both. I mean I don't know them too well, but one was a torch, and then the other one was a previous monarch. So I mean,
Yeah, they're both great.
Regardless of speed, it shows good honor, which is not always what you see with good fighters.
For
So,
sure.
yeah, I felt like it was a pretty like really good example.
Yeah, and that's why like I'm just like scrolling through this. I'm just like, all right, where are people that I recognize in this clip? So we can go ahead into this one real quick, which I vaguely remember this fight. This is Haru and Harusara Goldwyn. So we'll go ahead and watch it in real time first. If
Oh, Haru!
all right, and then we'll go ahead and watch it in slow mo, which, boop, boop, boop. So yeah, we'll notice that one was also like a pretty good clean one. And in terms of my only comment to make specifically on this one before I get your guys' comments is one thing you'll notice is that the way a lot of fighters call their wounds, they'll just kind of gesture with said limb, especially in single. They'll just like do a little wave because they're like, "Oh, you got my arm," but they won't say arm. When I started Reeving, I was really confused by this because I didn't understand that was the commonplace just gesture of "you got my arm" at first. And then I was like, didn't that hit their arm? And they were like, yeah, I already acknowledged that. And I'm like, oh, my bad. So that's something to keep in mind because a lot of fighters won't necessarily verbalize the "you hit my left arm," but they will just be like, they'll wave their left arm and be like, "you got my left arm," and then they stop using it, which is what Haru does here. So that's something important to keep in mind, but we'll go ahead and open up for if you guys want to make any comments on this one.
So I also notice sometimes, and especially in like the heat of battle, when you're just trying to catch a second to catch your breath, like some folks will, when they like do the arm gesture, because I have seen the arm gesture as well, like they'll lift their arm and they'll be like arm, or they'll say it silently sometimes and be like, "Hey, I'm putting my arm behind my back." I see Haru kind of do something similar to that, where he kind of does like the gesture before he puts it behind his back. So very chivalrous on Haru's part.
Can we watch that clip one more time? Can we watch that one more time?
For sure. I think this is at the beginning. Would you like it in half speed or normal speed?
Let's do half speed. Let's really like.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
The meat and potatoes.
It's hard to see from this angle, but Haru threw their left arm out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I still feel like that's good communication. I mean, if you make it evident enough to the other person.
No, it is.
Hey, you got me.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I was just making a point to note that not all fibers verbalize it, because when I had just started Reeving, I didn't realize it at first. A lot of people would just do the wave and not verbalize it. So I was just making that a point to acknowledge, like, also the body language of how they communicate taking limbs is also very apparent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that was a nice, pretty straightforward one there. And then let's see what comes in next. And then it's Mel. All right, so we'll go ahead and watch this one at normal speed as well.
I know her.
I know her.
Okay, whoa, slow that down. Slow that down. Slow that down.
Yeah, we're gonna.
What the fuck was that?
Okay.
I didn't like that. That was super. Wow. Where's the honor?
We're halfway through 10-24.
Whoop.
Are we seeing the same thing?
Hold on, I gotta see it one more time.
Yeah,
Okay, so look, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about shot calling. It's this. It's tap and then swing. Tap and then immediately tries to throw a shot on like a clearly newer fight. I mean, I'm not saying Abe has like brand new, but like.
No, this person doesn't have honor in general, so
That was fucking dirty. That was fucking dirty.
I will tell you exactly what happened here. Abeja is wearing something that they recognize immediately and want to make anybody in that jersey, like, it's shitty to say, but that person has a vendetta. That's all. That's not honorable. Don't fucking do it, okay? I'm saying that as a knight.
Yeah, typically.
Yeah, I mean, look, I will mention, like, it is something I've seen. It is something that you can do. It's not something that you can necessarily like kick someone out of a tourney for or something like that. But like, I just think it's in poor taste.
Yeah, it's not something that goes against ROP, but it is generally considered dishonorable.
Okay.
Like, not like that is one thing that as a Reeve you're gonna also want to keep an eye out for, is just generally people being honorable, whether it's shot calling or just general politeness towards other players in the ring. Like for example, if I were to kill another fighter and I go ahead and yell out my number before that fighter even calls dead, just assuming that I killed them, basically. That is something that is generally not honorable and you should not do. And if a fighter's doing that, then that's a part where you would correct them and be like, hey, this fight isn't over, your opponent hasn't called dead, the Reeve hasn't called them dead, don't call out your number yet. Just general tournament etiquette is really important, like the tap at the beginning and just as a show of respect, and then resetting back to actually start the fight.
I feel like the same discussion can be said about people who see certain people that they don't necessarily get along with. And they say, like, say for example, I'm using Rook as an example. Sorry, Rook. Like if I were to see Rook in like the Vice City jacket and I say, oh well, this is a Vice City person, I'm going to swing extra hard. Like that's on that same realm of like just kind of like not being courteous to other people. You know what I mean?
I mean, that I think is more tame. I think, because I get your point. It's like you're fighting more to prove a point rather than, trying to treat fighters equally. I understand what you're trying to say, but like, even then, like, if like if someone has beef with my jersey, that's fine if they want to swing harder. I mean,
So
I don't
how about this,
particularly have an issue
Leo?
with that.
Yes. Hi.
Leo, can we go back and watch the 3 fights before this and just watch the difference in how he treats Abeja versus everyone else?
100%.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Let's go back to the very beginning of this one.
Yeah, I joined a little late, so I just saw the last fight before Abeja.
So this is when he first steps in ring.
Yes, no, I'm totally. What do we do about that? 23. Okay, well I hit you where my shot hit here. Oh, you hit me right here. That's right. 24. That's what you're saying, he hit you in the face first and then followed up. 24.
Yo! Oh my god. Oh my god.
I mean, I don't know. Let's keep watching because if he gave it to him.
Leaves ring there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's another jersey, so I just wondered what that would have looked like in comparison.
I want to see it. Yeah, I want to see him lined up with another jersey.
Well, let's see if I can find when
Let's
he gets
go.
back in ring. That's Nocturne. That's not Golden. That's still Nocturne? Question mark. Yeah, that's still Nocturne.
It's still worth noting that everybody prior, including the person before,
You little fucker.
before not before before Abeja,
Perrin?
Haru?
Haru. He even treated like, okay, so before Haru goes in to fight him, the person before him, the person in the red long shirt, he treats him different. Then Haru goes up, waits, and he waits for both him and Haru to take a shot. But then when Abeja goes up to bat, tap, swing, 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 swing. So it is 100% noticeable, the difference say between like the two people in front of him, even the third one in front of him,
So
or
here we
in
can
front
go
of
into the.
Look, I just want to, before we start assuming biases and things like that, I just want to see a trend. If
Yeah.
it's a behavior that we see regularly occurring, then that's something we can definitely point to.
Is there a second video?
There is going to be another video. All of the ones from this mid-reign are uploaded on the Merc Bottom page of each category. So after this one, I was just going to literally pull up the Sorta board one, and then I was also going to pull up another video. But in this one, he's about to go back into the ring with... I cannot remember her name for the life of me right now. But they're about to step in ring.
Well, that'll explain if it's a female thing or if it's a Jersey thing.
That's
He didn't
Mandy.
even... Hold up.
Either way.
Can we rewind it for when Mandy steps right back into the ring? Like, okay, yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Completely courteous.
Yeah.
Either way.
behavior.
He has not treated anyone else.
Yeah, I hate to say it.
Yeah, then we'll see, because I think she's, her and Ducky are both wearing their jerseys. And they'll be coming
Yeah,
Yes.
I did see Ducky, even though he went to the other arena.
Pavilion, the two blue tables that are together, towards the fence.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
PJ, you're 18, by the way. OMG, it's 12.
Let's go 12.
Alright.
Sorry, guys. I'm gonna mute my mic because I
you're good.
realize being rude.
So as we're watching through this, you guys picking up a little bit more on what you're supposed to be looking out for in terms of, one, not only just shot calling, but also just courtesy and general honor. Being chill
In
and
abundance.
nice and polite in tournament. Okay, let's see. So, I wonder if let's see. Let's watch this one. This one will be good. I know it's gonna be good.
No, don't make that shit. Thank you.
So there you'll see a nice good instance of honor where 12 tells time like, oh, my shot wasn't in time, don't take. So let's go ahead and go to the beginning of that. And then we can watch that one over.
No, don't make that shit. Thank you. 27. Fuck.
So yeah, we're noticing that one. Nice good
What
honor
little
there.
we can. Since it's at an angle. Yeah.
Yeah, since it's at an angle and
I
12
heard
is
it.
large, but you can hear him say it. Here, I'll play it in normal speed. so you
Yeah,
can
and it
understand.
looks like he got a torso shot and he wrapped and got back shot, but it landed after.
Mm-hmm.
No, don't make that shit. Thank you. 27.
Yeah, there you go. You can literally hear him after his shot lands. He resets and he literally tells Time Lord and I go, no, don't take that shit. And he walks out of the ring and types his thank you and then calls his number, which great example of a good honorable fight between two fighters. Because that is one thing when you start fighting war, you know that, oh, my shot was laid. I was already dead. So letting the other person know, no, you got me. You stay in the ring. You won that. Which you love to see it, folks.
Fucking serious. 27. Don't count.
And then we see Time does the same thing with Z. So overall, like, pretty nice. For the most part, a lot of good honorable fighters in the ring.
29. 28.
Ooh, those fakes.
You got me too. Boundary. Okay. 29. I think that was 70. Okay, fair enough.
Alright, so that was a decent long one. So we'll go ahead and watch that one again real quick, and then we'll make some points of observation there. So we want to do that same thing again where you each pick a person, watch their shots, and let's go ahead and take a look at it in normal speed again. And then we'll go back to where, like, a lot of the ending shots of the fight happen in halftime speed. Because I don't want to watch the whole fight in halftime speed. This fight's a little long. But
28. You got me too. Two. Boundary. Okay. 29. I think that was 70. Okay, fair enough.
alright. So do we have any comments to make there?
Yes, absolutely. So I want to applaud, who's the person in the red shirt?
Robin.
This is Robin.
Robin. I want to applaud Robin for, when the arm shot happened that Abeja got, he did the magical, I call it the magical sword switch. Because in some LARPs, you're allowed to switch, like, if you arm somebody, you're allowed to, like, hey, my arm is gone, I'm switching my sword to my other hand. And some other LARPs, you have to actually physically pick it up. So I call it, that principle, that concept, the magical sword switch. So he takes the arm shot, immediately shows, hey, I got hit in the arm. And then they continue fighting. He gets hit in the other arm, but occurring at the same time, I guess, Beja hit the boundary, so it ended up in a simul because one contestant was killed and then the other contestant was out of the boundary.
I have questions. Can we watch this one more time?
For sure.
29. 28. You got me too. Two. Boundary. Okay. 29.
Did she not hit him twice in the leg before that
Yeah.
back shot?
And that's, let's see the...
Yeah, I'll run that back.
28.
Arm.
You got me too.
It,
Boundary.
Yeah, we'll watch that part in halftime speed real quick. And then... Whoop.
You got me too. Boundary. Sorry. Okay. 29. I think that was 70.
Yeah, it looked like an arm or a back.
Oh, well, that's what he gets called on here. I call him on Simo, and then he leaves the ring. But in terms of the legs here, at least there was one shot where I was looking at it, and it looks like hits sword, gets close to leg, but I don't think from this angle I can tell whether it hits his leg.
That's not far enough back for the leg shot that I was referring to.
Oh, hold on.
29. 28.
Okay, so he switches.
Was it like right there?
Oh, right there. I think I saw it.
Bonk.
I think I see what she's talking about. There's the first arm. And it's coming right.
And then there was another one where she jabbed him. And then she got the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the 2 shots in question. Although it's kind of, again, it's a little weird on the angle.
This angle isn't good, but it really does look like those connect from this direction.
Right there. Yeah. One of them just happened.
Which, like from this angle, like it does look close. So let me listen to the way it sounds real quick. Because I think I see it more on the first one, on the first leg. And then on this...
28. You got me too.
It could be.
It's really hard to see from these angles.
Yeah.
I can understand why it looks like a leg, but I also don't think that either of those were leg shots.
Yeah, to me it sounds like it connects with sword versus sounding like it connects with leg.
Yeah. Yeah, Abeja's definitely out of range for that to hit.
And
the sword keeps consistently moving. It doesn't stop at all, really.
Yeah, that's what I would say. It looks like Abeja is displacing his sword or their sword with her own sword and just kind of trying to regulate control in her swings to kind of maintain control on her position in the fight.
Yeah. And then other than that, like no other really concept. I think obviously can't see from this angle. I don't know if she only gets called on boundary or if he also gets a stab in when she kills him. So that I can't remember. Obviously can't see because his body is blocking her entire torso. So it's like we'd be able to see if a stab connected there or not. But regardless, it's a Simo, so he goes out.
I think she called dead because she thought she hit him in the back of the head.
Yeah, I'm not sure why exactly she called dead here. Because if there's a stab, I can't see it. But
someone who fights B a lot and someone who, has watched her fight in a lot of tournaments, if she thinks she hits someone in the head at all, she just calls dead. And that's what it looks like she does right here. It's the same body language.
And we were running soft boundaries for that tournament, so I don't think she was called dead for that. That was the first time that she stepped over.
Yeah, like regardless, she wouldn't have been called dead on that anyways.
It's really hard to see where the cones are actually positioned because if you look at where the position...
Yeah, because the cones are green.
And it's right where the sunlight is hitting them, so it's even harder to tell.
Yeah. This was the unfortunate circumstance of, are we sure we don't have any more colors that aren't green? Can we use a different color, please? But yeah, let's see. We're almost towards the end of this one, so let's see if I can get toward... Let's see.
Okay. 29. I think I was 70. Okay, fair enough. 31. Yeah, wait, Reeves. Boundary. Don't take that. Okay. Yeah. We are down to 5 minutes. 5 minutes for single sword.
Woo!
Uh-oh, 5 minutes.
Yeah. If anything, let's see. I think I had another video pulled up of single. Where was it? Which one was it? I did, and this one's a short one. And these are random people I don't know. I think. But, we can go ahead and take a quick look at this one, and then we'll start looking at sorting board, because I didn't realize it was already 7 o'clock. So, we'll go ahead and take a quick look at this one, and then we'll jump into sorting board, and we'll look at, we'll probably just look at the Weapon Master one here, because I pulled this one up, and I was like, wow, this one's really cool! And then there's a song over it, so you can't hear anything, which sucks a little. Only because you can't hear the pops or anything. But it's good fights, so I'll send it afterwards. But maybe not for class. So this is a single sword video from Polaris. And also worth noting, this is their Weapon Master bracket, so these are the top 8 that made it out of the Iron Man, presumably. So. You can't even see half of them. No! Okay, there we go. Remember, they fixed it.
Speaking of torches, for those who weren't at Spring War, Shifting Tides has the 2 newest acolytes, Fable and Wolfric.
So true. They're so awesome.
Wolfric's really awesome.
Yeah, they both like showed up and showed out super hard at Spring War.
Yeah, I'm posting the footage of our jugging. If you guys want to watch that after, it's still uploading on Facebook. It's probably gonna take some time, but actually, it looks like I finished.
Heck yeah.
So yeah, if you guys want to watch that just for a good time.
Yeah, we can totally what we can do. We'll like skim through this one a little quickly, and then we'll go into sorting board. And then we can afterwards, as a fun little treat, watch all the jugging videos.
Hell yeah.
So one thing you'll notice that in this, the Reeves are really letting the fighters talk this out, because I don't know either of these fighters, but this guy is a torch, so he's definitely good, to say the least. And then I have no clue who this other gentleman is, but one thing with a lot of higher level fighters is that you do want to give them the opportunity to talk things out rather than just outright making calls a lot of the time. Because, for example, when you're reeving at, let's say, if you're reeving at our local Weapon Masters in Neverwinter, when you see 2 people who are very familiar with fighting each other, who are higher tier fighters, who fight with each other a lot, like, for example, if Chop and Worm step in the ring with each other, you don't, when they start talking something out, you don't really have to intervene and step in and be like, well, this is what I saw, because as they're talking about their shots being in time, as to like notoriously honorable fighters, they normally can come to that conclusion on their own within a couple seconds anyways. So giving them the chance to talk things out is really nice. But then, of course, in these higher tier fights, you're also sometimes going to need to step in and be like, well, this is what I saw. So it's not like you get to go, well, I don't even have to reeve them because they're both good anyways. You still have to be there to reeve. And you still have to be paying attention. It's just a little harder to keep up with. So let's watch wherever this fight initially started because they started talking for a while. Okay. Okay, slow it down a little bit.
Did he get the shoulder first, or was that arm? I mean, either way, that was a very slick fucking.
Yeah, from here it looks like...
Really looked like shoulder. Either shoulder or head.
Yeah. The initial shot looks a little like shoulder, but at the same time he does have like a flinch in his face, and since I can't clearly see it, it might have hit head then shoulder. Can't super tell, but looks like it definitely connects with the shoulder at some point. They don't pause combat to like he doesn't call head or pause combat for that. Or at least if he does call head, I couldn't hear him call it. It doesn't sound like he calls head. And then they go through talking this out. And then they come to the conclusion that he lost the fight. And they go forward. Which, obviously, in terms of some of the higher level fights, sometimes it's harder to watch because there's a lot more swinging happening, a lot more shots happening in, like, per second versus, like, lower tier fights because they're pumping out shots, like, back to back to back. They're not stopping. They're flurrying. So watching these fights will be a little more difficult, of course, than watching some of the lower level fights. And that's not in any way a knock at lower level fighters. That's literally just when you have to watch more shots land and connect, it's going to be harder to pay attention to where every single shot is landing. Which is why a lot of the time in brackets, you'll notice, at least in Neverwinter, and I know a lot of other kingdoms do this, once we get to like semifinals and finals, and just brackets in general, try to put more than just 2 Reeves on a ring. Because this is when you're getting a lot of the higher tier fighters that are fighting each other, where you're going to need more eyes on watching where things land. Realistically, the more Reeves you have, the better on a ring, as long as you guys are all communicating clearly and there's no confusion and stuff. But
I do want to mention in my experience, I think that shot calling is a skill, and I think that for the most part, you're gonna see like poor shot calling come from a lot of newer fighters more than higher level fighters. Which is not to say that you don't see it in higher level fighters, but usually at a certain point, a person has built a reputation for themselves, and you kind of know like the people to look out for. If a person has that type of reputation of, this person is regularly having poor shot calling or sluffing or yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
yeah, for sure. And like Rook, as one of like our more skilled fighters, is also like one thing that's really helpful is that when you get to talk with like higher tier fighters, you get to also learn what it is that they're talking about when they're communicating and fighting. And you start picking up on people's habits, which literally just the more you reeve, the easier it will be, and the more you will understand the process of reeving. Because reeving is also a skill that is to be trained. So watching through videos, looking at them from a reeve perspective is helpful in training that muscle of how do I start looking at this as a Reeve and not just as like a fighter trying to learn some tricks and tips and stuff?
5, 4.
Oh, and this one's from the other ring.
Is this call recorded?
Yarg.
Okay, gotcha.
So, let's see. We got a Bremlin and Raylos in this ring. And we've transferred over to the orange ring in this video. Why is my full screen being so weird? What is happening? Okay, there we go. Alright, so we'll go ahead and start looking at sword and board. So one thing about sword and board, so oftentimes, right, reeving single sword is obviously difficult because I like any type of reeving can be difficult because you're watching to where swords land. Now you're just adding in another factor, which is this big old board that's in the way of the person. A couple things that are really important to look out for that I will say are typically the parts that I keep an eye on the most are watching the shoulders, because a lot of the time, because like realistically you're not going to see as many people just stabbing at as many stabs as in single. It will obviously still happen, but you have to go around the person's board, so it's really common for people to aim for those shoulders and watching for blocks to see, okay, did this person actually fully block this with their shield, or did they connect with shoulder at all or back when they were throwing their shot? That's something that's really important to keep in mind. And also, watching when people get legged and when they drop down to the knee, keeping in mind which leg's like their dead leg and stuff. Normally that's pretty easy, but the kneed combat is drastically more common in sword and board than single, so that'll be something you're seeing a lot more. So in this one, this like sword and board's kind of like, it is flat out essential to have at least 2 Reeves, because you straight up I cannot see anything of Raylos' torso or his back from this angle. I can see Bremlin just fine. So having 2 Reeves would help ensure that you can actually see both fighters now that there's a big obstruction in the way of both fighters. So let's go ahead and start watching through the sword and shield, a couple fights.
3, 2, 1, tap and go!
So I think you got it here. I think you got it before I got that arm.
Yeah, you're good. Thank you for the call.
That was a bit of a confusing fight. Can we go back on that?
Yes, for sure. All right, we'll watch it in normal speed, and then we'll watch it in slow-mo. So yeah, let's go back.
I can't really get a good view on what
on a Bremlin's shots on Raylos. Yeah. No.
I can't really see what he's hitting, and I also don't know which is his dead leg.
Let's take a look.
This is a bad angle for this fight.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if the whole thing is at this angle, or okay, it looks like there's some rotation, so I'm gonna skim through the video.
It looks like Raylos' sword is in the way of Bremlin's high crosses.
It is.
But it's really hard to tell from this angle.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. And Raylos is blocking the shot until he's able to get this shot in on Bremlin's side, which is why Raylos wins and Bremlin walked.
Yeah.
Shield leg, by the way.
Okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, let me see if the whole video is at this angle, or if we get a better angle throughout it.
I don't know, but there's a couple fights where they're getting side by side, so you can see it better.
Holy moly.
Remember, folks, when you're fighting Amguard, it's not forward and back. It's forward, back, diagonal, side to side.
Spinning around
This
in
is
circles.
not second edition Super Nintendo Mortal Kombat. This is Tekken.
Nice. Let's go, Bremlin.
So yeah,
Yep.
watch that.
That's
in half speed
awesome.
so everyone can see it again, real quick. Bonk. Okay, there we go. Oh, that's a little far. Bonk. Okay.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
It looked like he got torso on the first shot.
Yeah, you can
but
actually
it's good that he
hear.
threw follow-ups just to be safe.
You can actually also hear Gideon call it out too when he calls dead. He says dead on first there. I'm not sure how well you guys can hear it because I have it kind of low because if I blast it then I hurt my ears. But overall good fight because they like Gideon even calls out like, no, you got me on the first one, which is nice. And from that angle, pretty clear to see. But you'll be seeing how obviously looking at a fight with Sorna board can be more difficult because of torso obstructions and how important it'll be to not stand still as you're reeving. Obviously, for video purposes, it's fine for the person recording it to stand still. I'm not expecting them to circle around the ring the whole time. But as a reeve, you're not going to just stand here when like during this first fight with Raylos and just watch it at this shitty angle. You're going to do what Rinsler's doing here, where he's giving himself a better angle to watch the fight. And if I remember correctly, Krewl'Sol's also like over here off camera looking at this fight, also at a better angle than just the angle we're at right now. So it's something very important to keep in mind when you're reeving Sorna board, because you need to move around to be able to actually see everything. Alright, so we'll go ahead and watch this next one.
Let's go, Perrin. What did he hit?
So yeah, here, let's watch it in slow speed real quick.
Looks like he tried to throw money, but it got blocked out. Oh, there's the wrap. I see it now. I'm zoomed in on my phone, so I could like barely see the.
No, that's fair. I'm gonna like share the link to the videos afterwards too, so that way like they'll be in
Who is this on the left?
This guy?
Yeah.
This is Diablos from Emerald Cove? ?
I believe he's Darkwater.
You're right. He is Darkwater. He is Darkwater.
South Georgia?
No, Darkwater, Gainesville.
Okay.
Oh wait, let me put it in normal speed for the first watch through. Alright, then we'll go back and watch it in half speed now. Bonk.
That was pretty nasty. Oh, wait, he's a lefty.
He got that lefty mojo.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that at first.
Yeah, do you have any comments or observations about this fight? Anything?
No, not particularly.
Yeah, pretty straightforward one. Let's see. I want to make sure. I want to see if I can find one of. Oh, the angle shift. Oh, that's actually kind of fire. Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead and watch the right ring because they're a little far. Let's go ahead and watch the right ring here with PJ and Raylos. Where I think it starts right here. All right.
Five.
What did PJ tell Raylos?
Where at the end?
Yeah, at the end. I want to rewatch the fight. Yeah. It's that last exchange.
I think he says like it was like a super light graze or something. Like
He says it grazed his ear or something like that.
All right. So yeah, let's go ahead and watch this again. Put it in half speed. Wonk.
Okay. Okay, I see.
Wonk. All right. Rook, you sound like you have notes? Question mark.
Yeah, I want to see that. I want to see the last exchange one more time. Can you put it at the slowest?
Bonk.
I think that was leg.
Well, he took it. It looks like he takes it as a leg, but it could have been a little higher.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a leg shot from the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If PJ had done a little push in, he would have gotten into the gut and gotten a stab with it.
I'm trying to figure out what PJ was telling Raylos there, because it looks like they said something.
Let's see.
I don't know.
I can't tell. But yeah, like there's definitely like a leg. To me, from the angle, it looks like upper thigh, like almost hip / torso, not quite yet hip / torso. So there's definitely at least a leg at the end there. But let's see. Well, Rinsler starts standing in the way partway through, so let's see. Oh, but this fight looks like it goes for a while. We're gonna watch this one. Rinsler will move eventually. All right. Let's see. Now we got Gundro and Raylos.
I was so impressed with the stab.
So yeah, if anything, let's watch over this exchange down here again, because this is the first instance in this video so far. At least on this ring. I have not been paying attention to this one, but let's go ahead and watch over that again so we can all take a good look at it, and we'll talk about some observations. And now for slow speed.
he tried to go for.
Yeah. Any comments from everyone? Of stuff you're noticing to look out for a bit more with sword and board versus just single?
Yeah, it looks like Gundro's trying to go for wrap shots, but don't think he's going deep enough for them.
Yeah, especially if you notice, like, if everyone notices, like, Raylos is using a strap and also a dome shield versus a punch, which can be harder to go around, especially when someone's need harder to wrap around. So that's something to keep in mind when you're watching someone's shots, like what type of shield they're using will help you keep in mind, like, where a shot might be landing. But yeah, does anyone have any other comments?
Pro tip. A lot of really good Reeves are high-level fighters. There's a reason. Learning to watch people and understanding these fights and breaking them down will have a positive effect for you and your fighting.
Oh, 1000%. A lot of the Jesus Christ. Okay. One reason why it's really handy having like higher level fighters reaving is because they obviously know what kind of things people are going to be going for in these fights and what to look for and what things even sound like when connections are made. So let's see. Let's skim a little bit. Bum, bum, bum. Let's watch someone. See if there is a better angle. Slightly further in.
Time Lord's crazy, bro.
Time Lord is crazy.
I love watching him fight.
Was he in the left
I
ring?
love fighting him. He's on the right ring.
The cool thing is, he's also equally as talented at magic.
Where did he go?
I know because when I came back, Time Lord and I forgot what Josh Yarbrough's amp guard name is. Grok. That's another one to watch.
Okay, here
in
we
that
go.
regard, him and Time Lord have been around for magic.
All right, well, let's go ahead and
If
refocus
you
on
want,
this.
if you want to
So
They're both very knowledgeable.
we'll go ahead and watch this right ring. Or actually, can you see the left ring well?
I'm looking at the right ring right now. I'm zoomed in.
Yeah, let's watch the right ring. All right. And then
That
we'll
was
go
a nice
back.
cross.
That was a good shot from Worm.
Right ring.
I was looking at it.
Sorry.
Whee. We'll go back and watch the left one, though, since the angle is also good for that one.
I can only see one ring at a time because I'm on my phone.
No, yeah, that's why I'm just like, we'll focus on Raylos and Abejas first. But yeah, there's lots of good things to look out for in this one because there's a lot of good exchanges going on, good angles. You can see most of their shots land pretty well. Watching it again at normal speed. Anyone have any comments on that one before we could also before we slide over to this left ring with Worm and Lilica?
Just real quick, I'm having a bit of a hard time seeing like what shot she called dead on. Was it the one that looked like it kind of like
It snagged her forearm.
Okay.
Yeah, here, we'll watch it. Wait, can I zoom in? Holy moly. Hold on. Is this gonna... Oh, no, that's the gust of speed. Never mind.
Try control, scroll with your wheel. Hold control and then scroll wheel. See if that works.
No.
Nope. Nope.
Agony.
I guess I'm just a silly Billy.
It would have been really cool if it worked like that, though.
Dude, I think you have to download it and then do it that way.
That's disgusting.
That's fine.
Yeah, it was right there, the one on the forearm.
Yeah. Okay. That last
Okay,
shot.
I see it now.
All right.
And I do want to say, like, I think as Reeves, I think it's good to like ask, like, what happened in that last exchange? Like, how did that go down? Like, what was the last shot that killed you? Just stuff like that, just to encourage the fighters to remember, like, I'm watching, like, I'm paying attention. I'm still engaged in this.
For sure.
The only
And
thing I
also,
would say be careful with. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
The thing that you might want to be careful with that attitude towards it is that some people have. I've seen that happen. Mind you, it was a while ago, where people will say, like, take that as like an affront. It's like, oh, you mean you don't think I know what that sequence looked like? I was like, no, just calm down. Just trying to figure out what the fuck happened. Maybe I didn't see it. Maybe my other Reeve didn't see it.
I would say it is good practice to do as a Reeve though, just to like, also like with, like what Rook said, keeping up with the exchanges and communicating with the fighters, because realistically, the more the Reeves and the fighters are communicating with each other, the less it's gonna feel like an affront when someone's asked a question, because if the Reeves aren't really actively participating with the fighters and communicating with them, then it's gonna feel weirder when a Reeve suddenly starts communicating with you if they literally haven't talked to you for the last like 2 hours.
Yeah, I think the big difference is between dictating how the fight went and asking how it went. So, like, if someone says, like, hey, like, how did that land? Did you catch that with your hand? Was that your sword? Like, what went on over here? Just again, asking questions or communicating.
Or even then, just making comments as a fighter's leaving the ring, just like, hey, that was a good fight, good honor on that call, or good job taking that shot, especially with newer fighters, giving them the recognition and feedback of, hey, you're doing a good job.
I would definitely say yes, communicate with your lower level fighters like that, but I would caution you to be having that kind of conversation with the higher level fighters. Everyone in this room has either seen or heard a horror story about somebody getting upset because a Reeve said something. And if you haven't seen or had that pleasure, do me a favor and go into the Falling Fire chat and look to, I think it was, Fighters Practice? Was that where it was?
Yeah.
Not even 2 weeks ago? Where we had somebody who threw a hissy fit because they were called dead? Yeah. Just
The number one rule as a Reeve that you have to remember is what the Reeve says is what goes. And you have that ability, and no one is going to um, disagree with you outside of the people fighting. I mean, like, the people who are fighting can be as big mad as they want to be, but if you call the shot, you're the one in control. And if they fight you, you can throw them out.
Going back to one of the calls that Solgaleo made while he was reaving, it was Abeja versus the person with the long red sleeve shirt where Leo basically said, "Nah, dude, you're both dead." Those are good moments of, like, hey, this is Reeve call. I'm saying you're finished.
But even then,
You know what I mean?
like, one thing that I will say, there are certain higher level fighters where sometimes, like, after, especially like during brackets, those are better times where you can ask people about exchanges, because sometimes, like, there will be people fighting, like when Goose and Bolt fight. They pretty much talk everything out on their own a lot of the time, and they get things sorted out. But then sometimes afterwards, like, if I genuinely couldn't keep up with an exchange, I look at them and I'm like, just out of curiosity, what happened there? Because then I am learning what to look out for, and like recognizing how they're calling their shots and addressing like everything that happened in the fight, because they'll talk through literally every step of the fight they just had.
I need to throw this in here because that is a great plan with Bolt, Ballast, Goose, They are happy to explain every detail, and you should. Don't even try to reeve those fights. Just watch and learn and then ask. That is a great time. But there are fighters out there who are high level still that if you ask that kind of question for everything that you do from that point, they're going to call into question. So while Leo is correct, and I don't want to take away from that, I do want to throw a word of warning. Take it from an old retired Reeve, because I really don't want to do it anymore, who has seen the best fighters in this game. I've had the pleasure of watching the fights at Keep on the Borderlands. They're in their tournament and other locations. Yes, there are definitely fighters that you can ask, and they will explain every tidbit for you. Bolt and Goose and Serbalis from Falling Fire are all great ones for it. But others, and I won't say any names, are definitely going to make it your life harder if you ask that question too. So I just want to give that word of warning. Not trying to take away from Leo, just trying to give warnings where it needs to be.
I don't think I've seen anyone like that in Neverwinter, at least.
I have. But I'm not going to say anything. I'm not calling names.
Let's look at this left ring real quick, because I do actually want to watch this, because every time we replay it, I'm like, gosh, I want to watch this fight over here with Worm and Lilica. So let's watch that one real quick too. So another just observation for everyone, Worm is also using a dome. So keep that in mind as you're watching it, and how shots will look different on a dome versus a punch.
Clean.
Yeah, nice clean fight. Nice honorable fight. Slow it down too, so we can watch it in slow-mo.
Cross 1. Miss. Cross 2. Arm. Dark side.
Yep.
Textbook.
And then, let's keep watching the left, because now he's going to hop in with 12.
Oh, nice.
And that fight is pretty straightforward. This one will probably be a little faster in terms of swing speed.
Interesting. Oh, okay, it was a Thyma. Was it a Thyma?
So
12 told him something?
they have their exchange, and then 12 tells him his shot was late. So let's go ahead and watch that one back in slow-mo.
I see.
Yeah, watch it one more time real quick for everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, his
Because that stab
changed
landed
direction.
before he threw.
Yeah, so that's a really good example of both fighters being honorable, because like Worm goes to call himself done, 12 is like, no, you're good, mine was late, you stay in the ring. Which, again, another really good example of 12 just being very honorable in all of these fights. But another one of those also fights where it's kind of like a, if we're watching it again at normal speed, really you'll blink it, you miss it moment. So that was a very good exchange there. But you guys picking up more on like the things you're looking out for with sword and board. I feel like covering single sword made looking at sword and board a lot easier, because it's just single sword with extra steps. You're not watching oh my gosh. You're not watching like two swords at the same time, which is why we're doing flow later, because flow is, in my opinion, objectively the most difficult one to reeve, but that's just
If
me.
you're gonna do a lesson on flow, you should probably save that for a full day.
Yeah, that one's gonna be basically its own, and it's either gonna be just flow or it's gonna be flow and great, because I don't suspect great will take super long.
No, I would take this for. Sorry, I'm not trying to step on your toes, and I know it sounds like it. I would throw great in next, and then do like flow at the end or next week. I don't know
Oh,
what your plans are, but
flow's gonna
that's
be
how
in
I would do that.
flow's gonna be in 2 weeks. It's not gonna be today. It's gonna have its own separate day.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be on. The next class is gonna be on April. What day is it today? It's gonna be on April 9th. So the next ones are gonna be April 9th and then April 23rd. So it's gonna be wrapped up before Weapon Master. Edmund Rain. But yeah, I want to take a break from this video because I also now want to take a bit to look at this one. Which I'm pretty sure this one is just going to be a bunch of sorting board. Chop suggested that I pull up this video. This is a video of a torch bear pit from SKBC 2023. So this is going to be a good amount of quicker sorted board fighting, but excuse me. This will be a good one to look at in terms of higher speed fighting, and then we'll go back to the Merc Bottom one for a little bit, and then I'll see if Rook's jugging videos have uploaded. We'll probably wrap up around like 8:15, so I don't want to go too long because I also want to chill because I've been working all day. But here we go. I don't know why he started. Oh, I guess it starts recording halfway through. That's fine. Okay. Sure, let's go back to that little exchange here and slow it down. And then we'll get comments from you. So yeah, you can see right there that back shot that just comes clean over. But then, of course, we watch it again in normal speed. And how quick that is. So, one thing is that a lot of the time when we're going to be reeving sword and board, when you're starting to reeve people that are in fighting companies together, and especially high-level fighters that are in companies together, like Lyle was saying earlier, it's one of those times where you kind of have to step in less and give your own comments less, because a lot of these people, one, fight with each other all the time and will talk things through with each other. Which you can literally just see the communication here with the, like, he lands the shot, he goes head shake, now you good. So, with a lot of these higher level fights, with people from, like, especially the same company who fight each other all the time, they're gonna be talking things out with each other a lot more.
I just because I've kind of been taking on the role of the devil's advocate with this, and you can tell me to shut up if you need, Leo.
Now you good.
I do want to point out also with fighters who talk things out that sometimes you need to not let them talk it out the way that they're going to try. And I'm going to give you, I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So we've all dealt with a sluffer or two. And a lot of times you'll find a sluffer who you might call dead or will explain why the shot that they took that looked like it was a kill shot isn't theirs, but the other guy should die first because of whatever reason. And the reason I bring this up as part of this conversation is because they will converse their way to victory. Instead of actually fighting, they're going to talk their way to the win. So they're going to try to convince you first that they were not right, that you were not right and they were, or will try to explain to the other fighter why they should take that shot instead. Well, first off, what's really happening there? Rule number one that they're breaking, they're calling their own shots. But the problem is, as happens a lot in tournaments, that happens. So you as a Reeve need to understand that you make that call how you see it. And if they start trying to talk it out, like I said earlier, you got fighters like a Goose and Bolt who will absolutely, I can't even keep up with them anymore, but they're going to give you the best answer. But then you're going to have some fighters who are going to try to do that same thing, but the truth is they're not. They're not trying to give the actual answer to what happened. They're trying to tell a story. And they're hoping that the other player and you as the Reeve listen to it and buy in and believe it. So, yes, let them talk. So far I've never seen a torch who I couldn't trust. Guys might prove me wrong later, but at this point I have not seen one that I couldn't trust to do the right thing in that regard. But there are fighters out there who I have seen, who I know for a fact you cannot trust. And again, I'm not going to name names of people because some of you might know who I'm talking about if I'm bringing these up. And if you don't, great. I don't really want to be drawing attention to that. I just want you, as anybody who's taking this class trying to be better Reeves, to catch on to and understand. And again, Leo, you can tell me to shut up next time because, yeah.
No, this is all good, like, stuff to keep in mind. So I encourage. I am going to take a quick second to go to the bathroom, and then I'll be back.
Alrighty. Well, I guess we have a free study period, folks.
Hey. Who's going to Dragon's Crossing this weekend?
To where?
Dragon's Crossing.
Dragons? I'm gonna try.
No, actually, I wasn't planning on going.
Oh, of course you weren't.
I don't think you have a choice, Rain.
Strangling you, I promised. Jesus
I'm
Christ.
picking up my new car tonight, so we can take that to Dragon's Crossing when you guys come up.
Oh, you're a fucking G. By the way, Sam and Lyle, I'm coming up this weekend.
Dragon's Crossing is Tally, right?
No, that's
Valdosta.
Tally is Merc Bottom. That's my home park.
Okay. Okay, Valdosta. Gotcha.
But it's only like a 45-minute drive-ish. It's not terrible.
Sweet.
It's like how long it took us to get to Tides when we were staying in Miami.
Yeah, but the problem was because y'all decided to stay up where I live.
I return.
Welcome back. You guys chose to go to the opposite side of fucking town.
Huh?
Yeah, you can talk to X for booking that Airbnb.
Wait, for what?
I can't hear.
When we went down for Tides Day Battle, X booked the Airbnb that took us like 45 minutes to get to the park.
All right, because you guys were near Cadoo's place, weren't you?
No, we were like the opposite direction.
Oh.
They were up by my place. The problem was that they were up my place in an area that was a little bit difficult. It's fine. It's not the worst thing in the world. It could have been a whole lot worse. I've seen people get Airbnbs down here that are literally out in the middle of the fucking boonies, and it makes it almost impossible.
Yeah, or that like flood with smoke at like 2 a.m. Those are pretty bad
Well,
too.
it was kind of a goofy Airbnb. They like told us we were not allowed to have people over at all. So like, kind of odd.
So, Sid, because I'm curious, how long distance are we talking? Are we talking from like Hialeah to Kendall long distance?
Are we
Okay.
talking?
They were in like close to like Overtown by the Gardens, but not near I-95 or I-75 or the Pike. But yeah, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
ew.
Okay, now that I'm back
Okay.
from potty break, let's go back to Torch Bear Pit.
Bathroom cat.
Initiative.
All right, so watch a couple more of these, and then we'll go back to the brick bottom videos. And oh my god, it's Worm again! Wow.
I love fighting Worm.
Yeah, and he's so cool. So yeah, if we want to watch that in slow-mo, we can go back real quick, to at least where the first arm is, and then...
What are you showing off?
Torch Bear Pit video.
Oh, that's Worm and Raphael. Yeah, no, those guys are fucking good. Oh shit, is that Delos? Hey,
It's
yo.
Delos. So yeah, that one's pretty straightforward. One good thing is a lot of, I watched through a little bit of this video before. A lot of these fights are pretty straightforward. Which is pleasant. Sword and Board is honestly, like, random just side note, my most favorite to just watch and read in general. Vigar, why are you poofing up? Chillax, bro.
Does Delos' shield have the Saiyans on it?
You know, we're about to find out. Let's see.
No,
Oh,
those are
alright.
torches.
I
Chop
thought
is
it was-
actually on there. Those are his 3 favorite torches. They are his brothers. One of them is actually Chop himself. Sir Chop, I should say.
Yeah.
Actually, no, wait, is that? I think that's Harry on the right. I can't tell who the other ones are.
I think Chop is the center one.
This is before he got knighted. All 3 of those guys there have white belts.
That's true.
Oh yeah.
I think that's Harry, and I can't tell who the other one. Or Arthon. We have to know his drag. I have no idea.
I don't know.
I'll ask Chop later.
I don't know. He explained it when he was here for Chop's warlording. He literally explained all 3 of those.
Oh, then anyway. Shit. You got it.
I just don't know who they are. I just know that he explained them.
Should have fucking asked.
Just because I'm looking for this rule and I'm trying to save myself time. Anybody have the rules for the pink sash available?
Oh, the safety.
I can pull it up. Let me pull my other
Fuck,
monitor real
I
quick.
remember. Are you talking about
You already know what it's for. I just can't find the official rules to go in place for it, and I kind of need them right now.
Yeah. Let me pull them up real quick.
As soon as I finish it, or as soon as I get wrapped up next.
Aren't you driving?
Maybe. It's been nothing but like bumper to bumper traffic the entire time going up.
So does Pink Sash not follow the same rules as everything else?
It just means that they metal or
I have no idea what was being
Yeah,
said because
you are
everybody just
roboting
died out.
so hard.
So
Yeah, both of you roboted.
You both did a little bit actually, but Sid was like, "Take me
Egregious.
to your leader level."
Yeah.
Oh.
I come in peace. So Pink Sash, at the very minimum that I remember, and Krewl'Sol, if you're not aware, I'm actually in the middle of finishing out a class, a brand new AmpGuard class called the Merchant, which uses a Pink Sash, and it is going to incorporate the full rules for that. Anyways, the point of it is that somebody who is not combat but is trying to get involved in combat So if you have somebody who's in a wheelchair or somebody who's got really bad legs and they really can't be moving but they want to be involved, you can throw a pink sash on to them, and within a certain amount of distance, they just call dead.
I actually
Right?
don't know that I can. I'm trying to find it
That-
in ROP and I have
that's
no clue
that's
where
what
it
I'm
is.
trying to
It's not in
say.
the RP.
If I'm not correct, if I'm correct, I don't think you're going to find pink sash in ROP.
I think it's just
It
kind
is
of a
not the
homebrew
RP.
rule.
Yeah,
It is
No,
actually
yeah.
a V9 roll.
V9. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was
there is no
It was
V9.
officially in
V9 didn't get
V9 and
banned.
then kind of got brought in as a homebrew for everybody else.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
I'm
because I remember
trying to do is lock that motherfucker in officially, and if I have to, I will write it myself the way I feel it should be, and that's just going to make my life easier. But if it's
Yeah,
available
I don't.
someplace that I can use the official, I will use that instead.
If I remember
Um,
correctly, there wasn't an official. V9 was going to make it
Right.
official, but it
Right.
never happened. So
yeah,
if
V9
that's what
never.
you want to do, you basically have carte blanche because the only rule Pink Sash has to follow is it should be 2 inches thick, and
Mhm.
we all have the verbal understanding and agreement that there is no melee contact, and most places allow throwies and arrow.
So
Um,
the reason I'm asking is because one of the people I've been talking with from Blackspire, they use the pink sash as they cannot be targeted by anything physical, which means you can't throw a spell ball at them because that would physically hit them. You cannot shoot an arrow at them because that would physically touch them.
I was trying to pull up the
And I'm
V9 rules, and
fine.
it doesn't even look like they're available anymore. So
Oh no,
no,
V9 was
Here, I
literally
can send you.
picked up and deleted from everything
yeah.
as soon as
Put it in.
AIBOD got a downvote on it. Like it
that's
was
another.
gone
Holy
within
shit.
24 hours. They were not going to let that sit.
Yeah, they stripped all the wiki too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I
correctly.
know, I know Artemis is familiar with the pink sash
Um,
thing.
real quick, I'm probably
So
just gonna
maybe
stop the recording for now because it's like 8 o'clock.